Good morning, everyone. As the presentation resources are being shared with me so I can share my screen with you, I want to give you just a little bit of background about Jamboard. So Jamboard is essentially Google's answer to an interactive whiteboard experience. So if you're familiar with using smartboard tools or maybe Promethean or Interwrite board tools, it's similar but way different. So I'll give you that clue. I'll also give you some advance warning because in just a second, I'm going to ask that you join me on a Jamboard. However, I have more than 700 people in my class today. You're never going to have, hopefully, 700 people in your class. So with that being said, when this link for this Jamboard goes into chat, only 50 people are going to be able to interact with it at one time. So you will get a message that says that you're not able to edit or you might be locked out. So that's your hint ahead of time because only 50 live people can be collaborating on a Jamboard at one time. However, the link will be active, so at some point later, you want to come and interact with it, you can. Or today, I'm going to show you how to create your own jam, and that will give you an opportunity to interact. So as you interact with the Jamboard that I already have open, the question that I want you to reflect on is, based on the things you've seen so far, we started with a Google form that you're filling out all of your clues on. We went into Clarissa's use of drawing. She showed you how to bring in social media and connect that to whatever your learning experience is. If there's an image that you want to help convey an idea of something that you're teaching, you can use drawings to help with that. Jake showed you how you can use slides with animation, and I'm about to show you collaborating with Jamboard. So as you jump into the Jamboard, the question that you're reflecting on is, how can you use Google Tools to help create an interactive experience? So I'm already in my jam. As a matter of fact, this one tool is called a jam. I can see several people are joining, and again, your limit is 50, so everybody's not going to be able to join all at one time. But for those of you that are here, I want to point out that in order to add ideas on this jamming, there's a clue, Jamboard, a quick thing that you can do is you'll notice that over on the left-hand side of my screen, I have a toolbar, and that helps me interact with my jam. The fourth icon down is actually a sticky note. So if I wanted to post my own ideas on this jam, I could do that by choosing a sticky note. Notice I have a color palette that I can choose a sticky note from, and I can add my idea on my sticky note. Once I click save, it automatically launches onto the jam. And of course, mine went away automatically. I can move it around, so forth and so on. So some of you are figuring out that you can collaborate with me on this jam. So I see some ideas, have a written discussion. So in just a minute, this is probably going to get really full. So you'll notice at the top, I have some arrows to allow me to move along. So if you just want to jump to a different jam, you can. But you can do that with the arrow key moving forward. So for those people that have had a chance to jump in, I'll ask that you go ahead and jump out so that it opens the door for other people to collaborate. So again, you can navigate up at the top to move to a different jam, a different frame in my jam. But go ahead and spend a little bit of time here. But I'm going to leave you and jump out. Now notice that somebody cleared my frame completely. But feel free to jump into another frame in your jam, and I'm going to jump back to the presentation. So feel free to join me back there as well. All right. So let me give you a little bit more information about Jamboard now that some of you have had a chance to collaborate. So what exactly is a jam? I gave you kind of a heads up that Jamboard is Google's collaborative digital whiteboard, but it's more than just a whiteboard, it's an experience. Because the cool thing is, you don't actually need a whiteboard. I do not have a Jamboard in my house at this moment, but the actual board is called the Jamboard kiosk. However, what you're now working on, for those of you that are still collaborating, is on the web experience. So for those of you that are still there and want to come out, feel free to just close the jam. You probably have an X at the top of your browser. So if you close the jam and find your way back to the actual WebEx environment, you're able to see the tips that I'm sharing with you. So what you're collaborating on is Jamboard on the web. You can actually get to it in 3 different ways, and I'll show you those 3 ways in just a second. Again, you can join me in building your own Jamboard, or you can just watch. That can be your option for today. But a Jamboard is not just available on the web, it's also a mobile app. So if you have an iPad, or if your students have iPads, or if your students are working on their phone, they can collaborate on a jam, or on an Android phone or an Android device, they can collaborate. I'll give you a tip in Prince George's County. If you happen to have Android tablets, most of you probably don't, but if you happen to have an Android tablet in your classroom, you probably will not be able to use the Jamboard app because we don't have the Play Store, which is where our apps come from on the Android devices. We don't have the Play Store enabled in Prince George's County, so you're not able to collaborate on an Android tablet in Prince George's County. So that's just an FYI. So what can you do on a Jamboard? On the web, these are the features that you'll see. Most of them you saw on the toolbar that we just showed you. So there's a pen tool, there's an eraser, there's a color palette, both on the pen tool as well on the sticky note, which you saw. A select tool allows me to move things around, and of course you can search for images. The cool thing is with Google, everything automatically saves, and it saves in Drive. So you can always go back and find your jams if you need to. The iOS version of Jamboard gives you everything that I just said, but a little bit more. You'll be able to see some of these features a little bit later. So if I'm on my iPhone or iPad, I can jump into the same jam that somebody else might have opened on the web, but I can do what's called handwriting recognition. Um, which means that I can write something, I can annotate, and then it will automatically recognize it as some like a typewritten text. The same thing happens with shapes. There's a presentation tool, camera, as well as it integrates with Drive. So if you have device, or excuse me, if you have a presentation or something of that nature that you want to bring into Drive, you can do that. Android offers all of that and more. So everything that I've just mentioned, and you see a few more items that you can do. So today, here's some examples of how you can use Jamboard in the classroom. There are quite a few templates here. So if you see something that you really like, you can feel free to click on it and click the blue copy that shows up so that you're able to use it for yourself. But I'll jump in and kind of show you some just basic ways. Of course, this is for brainstorming. So typically you're looking for something that you can quickly annotate on. Ideally, if your students have some touchscreen device, it's easier to annotate with their finger, especially with the pen tool, but they don't have to. You can add sticky notes and things like that. So here's some examples of different graphic organizers. And again, if you clicked on any of these icons, which will be and already are available on our remote teaching site as resources, you can feel free to join them. The other thing is that a lot of people have put together ideas and ways to use them. So a few things that I'll point out are that if you'd like to, you can actually combine this with other tools. I'm sure you're probably already wondering, well, can I create a jam and assign it to my students so that they can go ahead and brainstorm? You can absolutely do that. So as you know, in Classroom, you can add a link to an assignment for them to either edit themselves, or they can work together in partners and edit. So Classroom works wonderfully. In addition to that, with Screencastify. So as a teacher, if I'm recording a lesson with Screencastify, I can open a jam and very easily demonstrate what exactly I'm trying to show them with the jam. You can do that with Zoom or with Google Meet or whatever your virtual classroom looks like. So this is a jam that puts together about 20 different ideas that other teachers have had for ways to use a Jamboard. So again, this resource will be available and is already available on our remote teaching site. And there's also some videos that give you some step-by-step tutorials if you need some more help with using Jamboard. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you, as our jamming mission for us today, I'm going to show you how you can start a jam on the web. Again, you can follow along with me, or you can choose to just watch. I'm going to show you how to navigate and duplicate frames. As a matter of fact, a frame is just one slide on a jam. You can edit using the toolbar, and I'm going to show you how you can share your jam. All right. So first of all, how do you get started? I'm going to go to my mail. And whenever you're logged into your Prince George's County account, you're using Chrome, you got all that set up because you recognize that that is the best way that Jamboard will work. So in my mail, I'm going to go up to the 9 boxes at the top. And when I click on the 9 boxes, I'm able to see the 9 boxes are called the apps launcher. From the apps launcher, I'm going to click on Jamboard. So if I scroll down, I'll find Jamboard in my list of tools. But it might be a little further down at the bottom. So if I decide I really like Jamboard, I can drag and move it further up to the top if I want, just as you can with any of these other tools. So this is one way that you can get to Jamboard. And of course, if you clicked it, it would open a new one for you. Or I can go into my Drive. This is way number 2. So from my apps launcher, I can go into Drive. And from my Drive, I can click on New. And I'm not going to see it in this list, this original list. I'll have to click on More. And then in the secondary list that opens a little bit further down for me is Google Jamboard. So I'm going to choose to open a new jam from here. The third way that I mentioned is just by when you're logged in as yourself into the browser, you can go into, you can type jamboard.google.com the same way you could with any other of Google's tools, docs.google.com, drive.google.com, so forth and so on. So again, on this jamming mission, we're going to learn some features about Jamboard today. Right now, my jam is untitled. So if I click in the top right corner, I'm going to name my jam Jumanji Next Chapter. And then you'll notice that I have undo, redo, and some other things that might be familiar to you. Some people already realize that clearing the frame means that you can absolutely remove everything that's there. So one thing that I don't necessarily like about Jamboard yet is that if I added something there, it doesn't prevent somebody else from removing it. And there isn't revision history the same way there is for other Google tools. So you have to really frame it correctly, spell out your requirements for using Jamboard before you jump in. So keep that in mind. Also, I will point out that there are these 3 dots up at the top. You can click on it and you can send feedback. So I've already sent feedback that it'd be nice if there was a way that we could at least see revision history. So keep that in mind from the 3 dots. Okay, share. So I'm going to start editing my jam using the toolbar over on the side. First thing I'm going to do is use my sticky note, which I've already shown you how to use. The 4th icon down from the left-hand toolbar, I'm going to put in my writing prompt. My prompt is, if there were a next chapter of a Jumanji movie, what would the plot be? And you'll notice as I'm typing, the little blue bar kind of shows up at the bottom. It lets me know how much more text I can fit on this toolbar. I'm going to remind them to include characters and setting. That would be something. A global pandemic probably wouldn't be too difficult to see. So I don't have another sticky note to add right now, so I'm just going to click cancel. When I click on my sticky, I can rearrange it. I can also make it larger with the handles at the bottom, the little blue circles. So I'm going to make mine a little bit larger. You'll notice that one of the handles has an arrow on it in the top left corner, so I can rotate it and move it around that way if I want it. I also see 3 dots in the top right corner. If I clicked on that, it lets me edit, duplicate, as well as delete. So that's how to add a sticky and adjust it. From my toolbar over on the left-hand side, I can also add an image. So near the bottom, the second one from the bottom is the image. So this image search is familiar all across all Google tools. I can upload my own images, do a Google search, which is what I'll do. You can add images from Google Drive or your own photos. So when I click in that Google image search, I'm searching for Jumanji today, and I'm just going to find an image that I like. And again, just like my just like my sticky note, once my image appears, I can move that around as well. Now, this is where on the web gets a little weird because I'm going to use the pen tool. If I were to just click on the pen, I'm on my Mac right now. I'm using the web-based version. So for me, it's hard to use my trackpad to write at the same time. So this is where having a different device that allows me to annotate with like my finger is helpful, especially for kids. I can do it, but it's not cute, right? So on this particular on this particular frame, which is one page of the jam, I put the word characters, but I realized that on the next slide, I want them to focus on the setting. So what I'll do, instead of just retyping this whole thing, I'm gonna go up to the top where I have my frames listed. And if I click on the drop-down menu, I can see that I have one frame. So I can add another one either before or after this one, but I can also duplicate this frame and just make adjustments. So notice from that little thumbnail at the top, in the top right corner, there's 3 dots. If I were to click on that, it lets me click duplicate. Now I have 2 frames. So on my frame 2, which I'll navigate to, I'm going to change characters and I'm going to make this the setting of the story. So I'm going to use my eraser tool this time, which is the second tool from the toolbar, and I'll just erase the word characters. And I decided, I really don't like this gray pen. I wonder if there are other pens available. So you'll notice that on my pen tool, there's actually a little arrow just to the right of the pen tool. So if I clicked on that arrow, it lets me change it into a different type of pen. So I have markers, highlighters, paintbrush, and I can change the color. So I'm going to change this color and I'm going to make this the setting of the story. Well, I'm going to decide that, you know what, I'm done with this for now. I'd like to share this with other people. So I'm going to click on share at the top. The sharing settings are similar across all Google tools. Right now, I'm the owner. It's not shared with anyone, but I know that I want my colleagues to help out. So I'm going to add Jake to my jam. I'm going to add Marianne. If I could type today. And I'll add Clarissa. And they're all going to be editors. And I'm going to click send. You'll notice them jumping in just a second. And they're using different devices than on the web. So they're going to show you some other features. I'm going to click back on share and point out that at the bottom where it says get link, if I wanted to copy this link and put it into Classroom for my students, I could do that. I could change this link so that people could become viewers or editors for this if I just want to post the link somewhere else. But you'll notice that my friends have come in, Clarissa and Jake. I believe Jake is on his iPad, so you'll notice that he's actually using an assistive drawing feature. So he drew something that looks like a cat, but I'm hoping in just a second that cat might change into, notice how quickly and easily he's able to add items. Now, while they're doing that, that's the assistive drawing feature. I'm pointing out clear frame, which again will clear everything on this frame, whatever anyone has written. I can also change the background. So if I want to put for math people, if I want to change the background so it has like a graph paper somewhat background, you can do that. You can also, from the 3 dots, download the whole thing as a PDF, all of the frames. I could save one frame I can remove this frame, make a copy of the entire piece as I want to. So you can see how my friends are working with other features that are not necessarily available on the web-based version. I want to point out that on the eraser, it's only going to erase those things I annotated. So I can erase the cat, but I can't erase those things um, that look like text or look like individual items. All right, so that's Jamboard. I didn't mention this feature right here, open on a Jamboard, but if you actually have the whiteboard kiosk, you can open on a Jamboard and that continues wherever you are. So you can pick this up wherever you are. All right, so as we come back and in closing, we want to let you know that you have reached the end of our journey, right, Mary Ann?